Welcome to Maker Camp.
Today you're going to go face to blue face with the makers of an amazing spectacle.
That's right, Sam. Drumming in lights, Twinkies, and robots.
We're going backstage with Blue Man Group at the Monte Carlo Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're going to see the secrets hidden in the wings.
Plus the weekend project, the Raspberry Pirate Radio.
So stick with us. You won't want to miss this. Thank you for joining us on the final day of DIY Music Week. I'm Camp Director Paloma.
I'm Camp Director Burke.
And I'm Camp Director Sam. And you're about to go on a tour of music, stagecraft, and excitement. But before we take you on that tour, we're going to check in with our counselors, Pierre and Enrique. Counselors, are you guys ready for this exclusive tour?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I really like how they incorporate science and technology into the shows to really give the crowd a more interactive experience.
Yes, and I think what's interesting too is that we talk a lot about people who makes music, people who makes instruments, but you are doing both music and instruments, and that's awesome. Yeah.
It is awesome. I'm so excited for this. So, campers, drum roll, please. We're taking you to Blue Man Group.
Hello campers and welcome to the Monte Carlo Resort and Casino in sunny Las Vegas, one of the strangest and most fun places on earth, making it a perfect home for the Blue Man Group. Cue the zoom, coming up to the casino now, into the casino, through the casino, hang a left, and there it is, the Blue Man Theater, where thousands of minds are exploded every day. Hello, I'm Ben, I can see myself, you guys can hear me, we're good?
We're good.
Hi. We've got a lot to show you. I've had a lot of coffee. We're backstage right now, but first things first, what is a Blue Man show? What is the show about? It's about awakening everybody's inner child and their sense of play and their sense of wonder about the world around us. There are Twinkies, and there's a dance party, and it's actually so hard to explain that I won't even try anymore. I'll just let you see for yourself. See, it's a pretty good time. Now, everything you just saw happens right here on stage. Follow me. You guys are mobile. We're going to take advantage of that. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Alberto. We're going to abuse our cameraman today. So if you can pan the camera out here, this is what the audience sees. Or no, this is what the performers see, rather. And as you can see, surrounding me now, tons of stuff. And these two giant eyeballs are Baby and Mama. Let's go over here. So Baby and Mama float around the audience at the top of the show, making sure everyone is paying attention. And I want to introduce you to someone very special. This is Bill Schwartz.
Hello, everyone.
Bill is the quintessential maker. So everything, well, a lot of the things you see today are the brainchildren of this, the brain father. And speaking of Bill, did you design these two?
I drew that one, and a guy named Michael Curry drew Mama. And he's got a great shop up in Portland, Oregon, and brought a big team of people with lots of different skills. You know, they could paint really well, they can sew really well, they can weld really well, all sorts of stuff. And it was an opportunity for us on this show to sort of expand our toolkit. It's all really simple things, but it makes a difference when you're putting on a show that everything kind of, when it comes out, it's different than the next thing. So we knew when we made these, we wanted them to be kind of a family, but be different. So Mama is a traditional remote-controlled servo motor, like a blimp, just like your standard blimp. And Baby's really much more simple. She's wrapped up in a blanket. It looks kind of like a tail, and it just swishes back and forth. And as she does that, she moves really kinetically and funny.
Cool.
The audience is
and
really
they chirp
fun.
around. And just to clarify, this shop in Oregon, you guys can do everything. You can fabricate, paint, invent. You have
totally
space.
everything. Yeah, it's great.
Awesome. And
Yeah,
so
people should look them up.
Yes.
They
Michael
did Lion
Curry
King.
Studios.
You've probably seen a bunch of stuff in the Olympics and
the
all
Olympics.
sorts of things. Yeah.
And you were always making stuff as a kid, right?
Yes, always taking things apart, unable to put them back together.
Yeah. And as a kid, a lot of it is about what you find, everyday objects, and the same is true for this company. We use a lot of found objects, a lot of everyday objects, such as PVC piping, which is the next thing we're going to show you here. This is a giant PVC organ, and you can buy PVC anywhere, at the Home Depot, underneath your bathroom sink, and I just want to make sure that people know how simple this instrument is. That
Everything is.
it's a steel frame, yeah, all this stuff. Steel frame, PVC pipe, cut to different lengths.
Yeah. And plywood. That's it. That's all
And
you
plywood.
need. And then some foam rubber.
Yeah, so these are foam paddles. The Blue Men use these to hit these pipes. They produce different notes. So you were saying that,
Everyone that's watching this has seen these before.
yeah, they're all over
I
the
mean,
place
not in
now.
our show. You see them, yeah, if you've been to any maker fair or any, like, I would guess all little science things or 4-H, who knows.
Yeah.
People putting these together. It's a great beginner project.
Super easy.
Super duper easy to do, and you can really make music with
This
it.
is just an enormous one, though.
This is a really big one, and
It's three instruments. in
three
one.
instruments put together. One Blue Man stands here, one stands there, one stands there, and they're laid out all in different ways so that the Blue Men have to play some different stuff.
they
you know?
make-
So it's not like they're just noodling in the box with a guitar. They're forced into unusual decisions, and
Yeah.
you know they take up different ranges of the instrument too. That guy's playing all the mid range. This guy's holding down the bass, and he's
Playing all the high stuff.
all the high stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And there are strips of LEDs here to highlight the Blue Men
And inside.
and the
Yeah.
inside as well.
And speaking of tubes and LEDs,
So what we're going to show you next, this is, oh, Bill just lost his mic pack.
oh,
So this is an acoustic instrument, and this is the backpack, which is not an acoustic instrument. It's powered by Midi Triggers. I'm going to crawl in here. Oh, yes.
That looks like a marching band instrument, but taken like to a whole nother level.
It is like a marching band instrument. It's a backpack, so the Blue Men wear it. I'm just going to hit these triggers here. Can you hear that?
Yes, sounds great.
Yeah, so these, you want to explain these Midi triggers a little bit?
yeah, this is simple, standard 30-cent piezo things, just like triggers that you can use, 2 wires on them.
You can rip one out,
little,
too.
Little voltage on it. I guess, yeah, it's really simple the way things go. Just put it backed on a piece of plastic with some foam on it. That all costed, I don't know, $6 maybe in total. And then that goes into a standard drum brain, the kind of thing that you'd use on any electronic drum kit. There's DMX coming from the lighting desk that powers all the lights here, so it's a protocol that they already know how to use, so that they can say, okay, these foam noodles, we want them to be blue right now. And then there's a microcontroller in there. Mark Koch, another guy, is going to talk about those a little later.
In the brain.
In the brain, yeah, that it waits around for a MIDI note, and when it gets one, it makes it change so that you can see which note got hit.
There's a chase effect.
Yeah, a little chase effect.
So just
And it's really light. These are just
yeah,
pool noodles that you can buy for $2.50.
yeah, like that's PVC pipe, steel, cardboard. This is pool noodles that Bill carved with a turkey knife, I think,
Yeah. That's,
were your
that's
exact words.
true. Yeah.
Um,
Foam and a turkey knife.
and that makes it really lightweight. And so when you're designing something like this, do you sketch first? Do you use clay, computer imaging software? What do you?
All three, or
Okay.
modeling wire is a good way to do it. You know, it's like this wire. It's kind of like a coat hanger, and when you bend it, it stays there. So, and you can just get it in a coil at like any crafts shop.
Okay.
So if you want to make a form like this, but you can't, it's hard to kind of draw in 3D that way.
Yeah.
You want to see it for real. So just bend it around and with a pair of pliers until it gets to be a shape you like, and then take some measurements or whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
You
Pretty
can
fun.
make this stuff. That's the point we're trying
Everyone
to make here.
should make.
Let's show you this crazy thing over here. I'm gonna crawl out of here, and I'm gonna crawl into this. So this is the drum Phoenix, and how this works is you can see the arms move. The Blue Men strap this on around the waist. They tug it around. There are 4 drums here, 2 drums here, 2 trees, which are log drums, and this metal frisbee, which is a chopper cymbal, as I'm told by our music experts. And these arms move. So, Bill, do you want to? Was that your idea?
Yeah, I think Michael showed me this mechanism that I really like, which
About to geek out
allows, yeah, it's pivots that are offset from each other on this truss work, so that very, very little linear movement back there makes a huge radial movement out here. And so we thought, that's really cool. We can just put things back there and make giant gestures on stage, you know, with the 6 arms and this animal-like thing. And then once we thought to put the drums on the end, we knew it was going to be fun, you know, for the Blue Men to chase them here.
The Blue Men actually have to chase these drums, and it makes for, like the PVCs, very interesting musical choices that sometimes they don't even make. They're made for them. So what exactly is this made out of? Is this aluminum, steel?
No, this is all steel, and the sculptural nature of it is something that they're really good at the shop. It's really fun to... This is not something I think that we could have entirely drawn first. It kind of has to be done on site. You know, you go, oh, that looks kind of good. Let's make that a little higher. Bend this a little more.
Yeah, I was going to ask you,
do you do it as you go?
Like, do you start with the exact idea for this, or do you start building something and then just sort of build onto it? It
depends. I like to make something and then make it again and make it again and make it again. You know, just redo it until it's got lights like antlers on it or whatever.
This does have... It does have antlers.
Oh yeah,
yes.
This goes like this.
Lit antlers. Oh yeah, it's very simple. Bill is just turning a wheel right now. It's all bicycle gears and chains and once again.
And that's just powered by the Blue Man walking around.
If you can get the camera, you wanna look at the brains of this thing. It's pretty crazy.
And those are just standard things. It's just LED controls and fuses and relays to turn things on and off, and the motor control over there. It looks complicated, but it's not. It's just a lot of it.
So believe it or not, it gets bigger than this. We're going to show you something pretty crazy. This is called the Mambler. It's powered by elves. So what this is, it's basically a giant walking instrument. So there are drums here. There's a drum platform over there, and that is our favorite thing. That's a whack-a-mole. That someone just
It's really more of a whack-a-possum.
So that's a musical. The whack-a-mole is actually a musical element of this entire instrument.
Yeah. When the Blue Men hit a mole, it makes a musical note, and so that's like a keyboard, sort of, that they play with a big meat mallet at the end of the show.
Yeah, and so you guys might be wondering how this thing is driven. It basically has 2 levers, and you drive it like this commercial, like farming equipment.
Yeah, there are these 2 simple but huge motors under there that each just are dumb and just want to go forward like this. But then you can buy a motor control that has several outputs on it, so you can just turn 2 pots and send it to the motor control and set up and tell it which one is right and which one is left, and it's really easy to then control some really dumb motor with it, but make it feel pretty good. So we've got one that's speed and one that's left and right, so it's really intuitive for the Blue Men.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then there are
there are many systems on this thing. You know, compressed air to make the moles go, because those are pneumatics. There's smoke machines and fans inside there to inflate the smoke-filled womb. This is pneumatics here to make these get out of the way of the birth canal.
This has a birth canal. This whole thing inflates. It pushes these drums this way, and it basically pushes the Blue Men off. They jump off and receive the human that is inside, which is an audience member. So basically, this thing fills with smoke. It's a smoke-filled womb.
Yeah,
as we've
said.
She
gets pregnant like really fast.
Really, yeah, it's a quick pregnancy, and then the human comes out. And speaking of smoke, we've got another very interesting instrument to show you. These are the aptly named smoke drums And I'll come around with you here. Bill will go up there. So these things fire perfect smoke rings. Do you want to explain the guts of one of these bad boys?
Yeah, so outside, we like the shape of the timpani, so we tried to make it look like a kettle drum, you know. And this is somewhat translucent fiberglass sprayed with this copper stuff that there are LED lights inside an interior can, you know, that's just a cylinder, a straight cylinder, that when you make the smoke rings, they also light up and change color. This looks copper now, but then it changes to any RGB color. And inside here, there's a linear actuator, kind of like the moles. It's just a valve with a hose going in each side. And when you blow in air here, it goes back. You blow in air here, it goes forward. And it's connected to a giant plunger. So the smoke machines under here send smoke through here in a coil. When the plunger goes back, it creates a vacuum and sucks all the smoke like a coil, like this, and then it shoots off real fast and makes a toroid. And
toroid.
Toroid, yeah, it's like a donut.
Great word, yeah.
And we found making these was really, really fun because we found all sorts of cool things you could do with that. If you just put smoke in front of here and just shoot air out, just plain old air, that air will pick up all the smoke and make a smoke ring on the other side. It's really
wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
I wouldn't have thought of that, but it happened, and they were like, oh, that's cool. Let's do that.
Let's do that. Yeah, that's pretty blue, man. So whose idea was this?
Yeah, sometimes, this is the way my job goes. Sometimes I get to think up things and do it, and sometimes I don't. The founder of Blue Man Group is this guy named Chris Wink. He's one of the founders. And sometimes he comes to work with crazy ideas. And one day he saw on Good Morning America or something like that, some dude with a coffee can and a rubber band that was shooting smoke rings. And he came in and he's like, Bill, why don't we have a bunch of those, big ones? So I went ahead and
we snuck away, and we're now in this cage-like structure. We're above the stage, and I'm here with two of the crazies, musicians here at Blue Man Group. So this is Jeff, this is Andy. Can you guys tell me where exactly we are and what you guys play?
Yeah, we're in the stage left band loft and play the drum kit here. And Andy plays the Chapman Stick and the electric Zither, which he'll tell you about in a bit. He actually built his own. And across the way is the stage right band loft. There's a guitar and two stand-up percussion rigs. And we hear each other through somewhat modern technology of in-ear monitors.
Oh yeah, and those are basically glorified headphones. Is what they're custom molded. They keep the sound out, but they also get a very specific feed in.
And video monitor, and then we have a metronome over here for hearing a click through some of the tempos, and then watching the stage and the audience visually to see what's going on. So.
And then Andy is going to show us the Zither.
We have some of our string instruments up here. There's a few ways instruments find their way into the show, or ways that we use them. One of those ways is where we build something from the ground up, like a lot of the instruments you saw down there. Another example of that is this thing, the electric Zither. It's plywood and 2x3 and piano pin block and guitar string and bass string, 8 electric guitar pickups. It actually has 87 strings on it, so it's quite a beast.
It's a beast.
There's a few ways we play it, a few different kind of sounds we get out of it. One of those sounds is sort of like a lap steel you might hear in rock or country music. It sounds like this.
Yeah.
Then it's also kind of part harp. So up here we have what we call the harp. And then another way we use it is kind of in an electronic or techno sound, and we get it through a couple of guitar pedals we have down there, and we can create a sound like this. So that's the Zither. Another way we use instruments in the show is we take something that already exists out there in the world, and we use it in a slightly different way. This is a Chapman Stick, which is out there, is made by somebody else, but we use it a little differently. It's intended to be tapped, which is an example of that is like this. So we do that in the show a little bit, but the primary thing I would say primary way we use it is something called the Mandelbrot, which is where we take a bass string and bow it on the other bass strings on the stick, so it sounds like this. And that's sort of a melodic and rhythmic foundation of the show, and we lock in with the kit in that Mandelbrot pattern, which Jeff will show you here.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, speaking of the kit, this is the drums are all DW custom maple mahogany. We had a 14, which you saw me play on that Mandelbrot pattern, which is kind of unconventional. 10, 12, 16, 22, and a 6.5 aluminum 1 millimeter thick snare drum. A variety of Sabian cymbals, as you can see. And the kit player is like the band leader of the show, so you have to pay attention to him. So anything that goes weird, it's his fault. You can yell at him later. And we kind of...
Yeah, we punish him later. I should mention really quick that, I mean, the Blue Men don't speak. Not everyone knows that. We kind of assume that people know that, but the Blue Men do not speak, and so it's our musicians who actually are responsible for scoring the dialogue that might be happening between the Blue Men and the actions and things that go wrong on stage. So you guys are playing scored music, but you're also improvising, right?
Yes, yeah, there are moments where it's like, okay, this is the specific piece, it's 4 minutes long, it's how it goes. Then another time when the Blue Men are out in the audience, and it's like depending on what's going on, you have to pay attention, follow, and there's certain cues you give so everyone's on board and watching their action on stage and through whatever means we have to kind of, play the show out.
Yeah, and you guys are like basically spastic rock stars, so we keep them up here away from people, but we do release them into the public every night to play something that we call the procession. Let's take a look. So the procession musical parade that goes through the casino our theater's in, it kicks off the show nightly, and it's kind of a reminder for people playing the slots that something a little more exciting than a $30 jackpot is happening just down the way. We are running backstage to our next locale, and we're live again. So we're way backstage now. I'm here with two of the procession experts. This is Mark, a brainiac, and this is Todd, a musician here. Todd is in a contraption. It's like a musical insect. Todd, you want to tell us some of like the musical aspects of this thing?
Yeah, this is one of our 3 percussipedes that we use for procession for the show. And it's divided up in between small, medium, and large drums. This is the rig with small drums. And we have lots of stuff on it. We have Hawaiian log drums. We have single-headed toms, double-headed toms, snare drum, hi-hat, tune bells, Sabian choppers. And so we use this for about 15 minutes before the show, and we're all single file, and so we're spread apart pretty far, so we'd have a hard time hearing each other that way. So what keeps it all together is we actually have in-ear monitors, and we're plugged into wireless packs, and these packs play us a metronome that gives us the correct tempo, so we all listen to that at the same time. That keeps us all locked together.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
And you mentioned before that some of these drums have bottoms and some do not, right? That's
right.
Is there a technical reason for that?
It's just a different tonality. Like the drums that only have the head on top produces a very short sound, and the drums that have the heads on top and bottom produces a longer tone. And it's just for variety in tone, really.
Cool. So the procession is very musical, but it's also very visual as well. It's like an entire lightsaber battle that we've turned into a parade. I'm going to take us to Mark now. Mark is sort of the technical expert on some of these elements. You want to turn some of this stuff on and tell us about it?
Yeah, the
pool noodles.
These percussipedes, yeah, they have pool noodles with some 50/50 lead strip in them. They create this nice neon glow effect. We use that in a lot of things in the show. We have a little brain board back here that controls some of the elements of this. For instance, when the musician strikes the drum, These legs will cycle colors. So we have a microphone on a board that has the same chip that's used in an Arduino microcontroller board.
Yeah, those are the brains, right?
Yeah, it's the brain,
Arduino.
and that picks up that sound, and it cycles through these LED colors.
Okay.
We also have the hair up here, which is we call quills, and they're using a different type of strip, but they're cycling. They're able to change their colors through using the microcontroller as well.
So let's keep going.
Yeah, this contraption's called a Trike.
Yeah, what is this thing? Because it's crazy.
Yeah, this is the Trike. It's got a golf cart chassis in it. It drives around. It tows these two other trailers behind it, a string cart and our Technemini over there. The car itself is covered in a bunch of these red LED signs, the same kind of thing you'd find at the stock market.
Yeah.
And so it creates this slipstream of information flowing over our car, and it's got its little quills up there as well that change color as they shift. And there's a device called an accelerometer in there.
Okay.
And as it shifts from left to right, it changes its color.
If you want to close in on these gears, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's one motor running this whole gear assembly and this kind of sine wave configuration.
And this used to be powered by some unlucky human, right?
It used to be pedaled, and then we converted it to a golf cart.
Yeah, that would not be fun.
So yeah, now it tows these other two devices behind us here.
So it tows. First of all, it tows this thing called the string cart, and there's another Zither on this bad boy, as you see.
Yeah, there's another Zither here, a Chapman Stick. So this is like a mobile version of what you see in the show.
And then, and what it tows over here is this thing called the Technemini.
This is called the Technemini. It's like a sea anemone with more pool noodles and more 50-50 LEDs. And it just changes their color hues and rocks back and forth and creates a nice effect. So yeah, these three things are just pulled through the casino like a big train, big, a parade float.
And then what's this giant hamster wheel over here? That's a hamster wheel for humans. That's literally what that is.
So this is called a Zorb, and yeah, it acts like a hamster wheel. So there's a person inside of it walking it through the casino, and then we have another person guiding it and then striking it, and then it lights up every time they hit the drum.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our procession here at the Monte Carlo.
Thank you, Todd and Mark.
Thank you.
We're going to move now to robots, because we do have a lot of robots in the show. And we auditioned several robots, and we found that a lot of them were emotionally flat, not surprisingly. But we do have two robots in the show that learned to play a song with the Blue Men. Let's roll that footage. We have footage of these guys. As you can see there are two giant KUKA robots. They're actual assembly line robots, and they make some mistakes. And the Blue Men have to kind of teach them what they're doing, but unlike the end of Terminator, it does become a beautiful man and machine musical collaboration. Yeah, they basically play a Mini Cooper. I'm here with Chris. Chris is keeper and controller of the robots. First of all, do you feel like you play a glorified video game?
Oh yeah,
for a living?
sometimes I do, sure.
And second of all, these KUKAs are just one part of an enormous automation system that powers this show. Can you tell us about this system?
Yeah, sure. Our primary system we use for the show consists of 26 axes. 10 of those axes are wire rope drum winches. 5 of those are attached to a counterweight system to fly various elements of the show in and out. 5 more are used in conjunction with a track and trolley system to motivate our LED screens. Each of those winches is capable of moving 500 pounds at 4 feet a second, which is pretty quick. We also have 13 one-ton chain hoists that are equipped with load monitoring and position feedback, and then finally we have 3 axes that are wagons. 2 of those are friction-driven, and 1 of those tracks along a chain, the KUKA wagon here. The chain is anchored into the stage floor.
So let's talk about this wagon. Yeah, you can see right there. This whole thing, we like to call this the marsupial. We gave it a little pet name, which is cute. So let's talk about these 2 robots in particular. These are actual assembly line robots.
They are actually assembly line robots, you know, and we take them and use them in a different way.
Yes.
Each of these machines is a 6-axis machine. They weigh in at 1,500 pounds apiece. They have an 8-foot reach to them. They can carry as much as 66 pounds out at the end of the arm, and they're repeatable positioning down to 0.02 of an inch.
So these things don't really have to, well, they do have to warm up before the show, right? That's a whole
They
process.
do. When we come in and we power up for the day, the robots are maybe not sure where they're at, so we have to run through a little program just to validate that the robots are actually where in the world they think they should be. So we run through a master and break program, and that takes it through and just validates the positioning of the robot so it actually knows right where it's supposed to be. And then after that, we run through a little brake check, and that brake check just allows us to make sure the brakes are opening and closing when they're commanded to do so. And then once we've got all that accomplished, then we load up the program, and it sits there in wait mode until showtime, so we initiate a move.
Yeah, and as you saw in the footage there, the Kukas get really, really close to the Blue Men, which makes safety a big concern, right?
Safety is huge. Far and away, to pull off this sequence, safety is of the utmost concern, and it's the most safety-intensive part of the show. And we've implemented a lot of measures to make sure it stays safe. So first of which, along with all the other eyes that are on stage, we have a person that keeps their thumb on a button. It's called the dead man, and they're monitoring the situation at all times just to verify, if anything goes wrong. They let off, and that will stop both systems completely.
Thank you, dead man.
Yeah. And also on the band lofts, we have mounted safe edge switches along the post. So if the robots ever lost their mind, tried to run into that piece of scenery, those pressure switches would also shut down both systems. So you've got that level going on. We also have put RFID sensors on this wagon and the PVC wagon that you saw earlier, and those have to align to sensors that are mounted into the stage floor, and that's the way that we know that the two pieces are correctly relative to one another in the real world for the choreography of the Blue Men and the robots. And along with that, on the PVC wagon, there are also 4 mats that are pressure-sensitive mats, and it is the way that the system knows whether a particular space is occupied or not occupied in order to continue with the sequence and run at any time. And there's also another level of zones built in with the robots that allow them to either work or not work inside of those zones. So all of that together is what we do to keep machine and man safe and free from harm.
And just a quick question, these things weigh so much, and this platform weighs so much that we had to reinforce the stage, right?
We did have to reinforce the
to
stage.
Hold this thing.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
It is a beast. Yeah, there's a lot of counterweight on here. It's that 8-foot reach. When they get to swinging around, they certainly cause the whole wagon shakes
yeah.
violently. So
I've seen it.
It's yeah, it's pretty amazing. But it's very neat. It's a great example of technology coming together to make it work.
Yeah, so you can see how many systems are in place and how many people it takes to prevent accidents. And I always say that the real show is behind the scenes here at Blue Man. Something that the audience might not think about are the props that we use. Just as you can't go to Guitar Center and buy a Neuronulum backpack, you can't go to Walmart and buy the props that we use. We actually have to manufacture this stuff in-house, and I don't have to do that, but Joe and Brian do. This is Joe. This is Brian. So you guys want to tell us about props?
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, props at Blue Man are of a pretty unique breed. We follow a set design aesthetic standard, and given the fact that we do 2 shows a night, on average, these things have to be pretty durable. I mean, they take a beating, sometimes literally. We have percussionary props. Yes. We have props that get spit out. Some get eaten. We have props that get paint on them. So we have to keep in mind just all the abrasions that happen to them all the time. So
the Blue Men are unpredictable, strange creatures, and they destroy things for a living. And so the props take a beating here. You guys want to tell them? Yeah, you guys fix it. You want to tell them about your team here?
Yeah, we're a team of 9 people. We're actually specialized makers, and there's actually 4 people each night running the show, but there's so much more to it than that. We're also fabricating, we're maintaining props, we're doing all that, we're inventorying things.
Yeah.
So it's a huge operation.
What kind of materials do you guys go through?
We get to use a lot of really cool stuff. We're using a lot of silicones and plastics, and we're using a lot of fabrics and foams and things like that. But we've also got some pretty mad skills in the prop shop.
Yes.
We're doing all sorts of soldering. We're doing things like that. We're doing special effects and puppetry and all sorts. It's really a mad science lab.
And we just saw that you were building a drum bone.
Yeah,
right?
this is actually a really good example of kind of Blue Man technology. This is actually creative repurposing, which is using everyday objects in a very conventional way. This is actually a really good example of three blue men working together to create one moment.
Yeah, and this takes this takes everyone who works in the theater basically to make this instrument.
Yeah, I mean, Blue Man's a very we work collaboratively all the time. I mean, to make the drum bone, all departments put their hands in this. For example, props, we build this, we put the finish on this. Audio mixes the sound and mics it. The musical instrument techs tune it. Lighting lights it so you can see it. Carpentry and automation, sets safety standards. And wardrobe clothes the performers. And of course, the performers, they play this.
Yes.
So it actually takes everyone to create the experience and actually bring this to life.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Whoa. These guys pop in every once in a while in this place, so we should follow them because the trombone is an instrument, and if they figure out how to play it right now, then we're in for a treat. I'm gonna get out of the way.
This is my trombone. This is the trombone cue.
Yes! Now I'm in the dark.
That was
Blue Man.
awesome. That was great. A surprise performance from the Blue Man crew.
Yeah,
that's so amazing.
Now they're going away to steal something else from somewhere in this building. So that's it for our tour. Actually, it was a whirlwind tour. I just want to make sure you guys know that all this stuff is really simple. You can make your own drum bone, make your own PVC organ. This all started when 3 guys got together and made something. So make instruments, make music, make joy, and spread it. And even though the Blue Men aren't talking, I'm sure they're saying the same thing. So that does it for our tour. We're going to go now to the Q&A. We have all of our guys here ready for your questions. So we'll just pay attention here.
That's awesome. So let's go over to the counselors who have some questions from you campers.
Yeah, so a lot of the campers want to know, what was the inspiration for the show?
What is the inspiration for this stuff? That's a good question. I think it came from these guys wanting to make a show that they hadn't seen before, that included a lot of the things that they were good at, such as drumming and painting and just making this explosive experience that they thought was kind of missing in the world at that time. I think that was the inspiration, but I think it's also just grown leaps and bounds upon itself this whole time. So they started with a concept and they just built and built and built. But it's sheer imagination, really.
Yeah, it comes across as this really fun and playful, great experience. I mean, I've gotten to experience so much just even here today, but even in my research before, it's this fun collaborative experience that's about getting people to get out of their shells and play and really interact. So I love it. And I think my favorite thing about today is also that you can see that the Blue Man Group really is all filled completely with makers from the actual show all the way behind the scenes to the people working. You start with piezo contact mics, like we were talking about those actually all throughout Maker Camp as a great way to get started, all the way through to using production line robots. So I love that it completely covers the entire range of making.
Yeah, and it keeps it really simple, and there's a lot of parts that you can find anywhere. I mean, it's amazing. I can only imagine how many stores sell out of pool noodles in your area as a result of making this stuff.
And counselors, I want to get another question because I could talk all day about this, but let's hear what you have to say.
Yes, we have a good question from Ellie, who wants to know how did the show change from it first started?
Wait, what?
How did it change from when it first started?
Oh, how did it change from when it first started?
Yeah.
Well, there have been technological advancements since when it started, which was a while ago. And so I think it's like what you hear about Star Wars. Like, once the technology was available, George Lucas said, okay, I can make the movies that I want to make now. The same can be true for some parts of the show, is that I think once technology became available, they were like, let's go crazy and let's make stranger and crazier stuff. And that's why we have robots now. And, it's... but the show changes all the time as well. They implement like little changes here and there, changes to the music, new musical pieces, new like comedy bits and stuff like that. But it's changed a lot. It's constantly changing, and it's also the fact that the way the show is set up is that it's not like a conveyor belt play that's on a conveyor belt this whole time and nothing can change. It's open-ended, and so we can insert new pieces in all the time wherever we want.
Wow, that's really incredible.
Which makes it cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. I have a question for the props department. I was wondering, what tool do you consider like the most essential that has gotten you out of so many tight jams in the past several years?
The turkey knife.
Turkey knife. Bill says turkey knife.
People saying that black gaff tape is actually probably the best thing. It actually holds the world together.
It holds this world.
Yeah. It actually has a dark side and a light side, just like the Force from Star Wars. So that's the whole joke I've always heard.
Star Wars references going on here.
Black spray paint always helps in a quick fix. As far as tools, I mean, probably the internet. That's how we're actually researching and developing all sorts of new technology and material.
I use a belt sander a lot. That's like the go-to tool to making, like carving pool noodles. So.
Pool noodle carving.
Yep.
I never would have thought about that.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That is fantastic.
Really
yeah, I bet they go through turkey knives like crazy. Just lunch and then pool noodles and then lunch again.
Yeah, we're harping on this turkey knife business. Get a
I just
turkey
love
knife
the
now.
materials that they must have every month when they go through the set list.
Yeah. We go through a lot of stuff.
No, that's terrific. How is it that you tune PVC anyway? Because I don't think people have ever given that any thought whatsoever before you guys came on.
No, it's just like any organ or any. There's lots of instruments based on the organ that are just pipe lengths, right? So it's a mathematical formula that has to do with the length of the pipe, whether it's open-ended or not, and then the temperature of the air. And it's really simple. So the higher the air temperature, the higher the pitch, but then also the longer the tube. And you can do the math really easy. So that was all modeled first. Each of those pipes, we already knew what length they were going to be because we knew what temperature the theater would be at the time and what notes we were going for. So we didn't even have to tune it. We just got the bill of materials off of the CAD drawing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see some of our campers at home go to the hardware store, pick up some PVC, or even find some paper towel rolls and see what you can come up with. See if you can make your own fun environment. And actually, I have a question that I want to ask for myself, because this is awesome. So musicians, what techniques do you use every day? Like, what techniques in the show do you use every day?
Wait, what do we use every day? Musicians.
What techniques?
Well, we all been playing for decades, so like the stuff we just learned through the years playing in, whether it's some of us were trained, some were playing rock bands or whatever, and the willingness to play with multiple people at once. So you have to listening a lot, to playing together, a lot of listening, and not just thinking about yourself, thinking about the whole thing as a whole with the band and Blue Man.
Yeah.
Anything.
And as far as maybe even technique goes, there's, for example, like on the electric zither, there's a piece in the show where we actually take a tape measure and just pound on the strings, So there's a lot of unconventional technique type stuff too, that literally you just find an object and try it out and let's see what it does on this, machine and see what sort of sounds we can get out of it. So it's always, inspiration kind of comes from all sorts of places.
Who has the best tape measure technique?
Everyone kind of has their own little thing going on. Everyone's got their own tape measure way of holding it. It's kind of like the claw, just very primal.
I want a tape measure.
You want a tape measure. Now Jeff wants a tape measure.
I think that it's really awesome that the big, first thing that you mentioned there, like listening, not even just for musicians, but in any sort of collaboration, really feeding off of the other people in any performance. It's really important to kind of listen to the other people in the room and feed off of what they're doing and respond to that in a way so that you can be really fluid with your performance.
Oh yeah, and it's also like the show is different every night because we're feeding off the audience every night. Like it's every audience, you would not believe how different the energy is between audiences, and so we're picking that up from them. The Blue Men are picking that up, and then the band is picking that up as well. And so the show is all listening basically. It's much less out than in.
But that's interesting what you say about a collaboration, because you can see we're a pretty big team.
Yeah.
There's just people all over the place, and it takes so many people to make this show. I don't work here in Vegas. I work in New York, so I come periodically to see it, and every time I come back, so many things have changed, backstage or like little bits of the show, and it's really fun to see. So you realize everybody's constantly contributing, and there's always a willingness for everybody to just accept ideas from any corner. It makes it really fun. There's no way really to come up with all of this from one place,
Yeah.
It's always better, I think, to collaborate. It surprises everyone involved then, the thing in the end turns out to be different than anybody would have planned.
Yeah.
That's definitely a great take-home message on that, is that one of the great things about collaboration is that by submitting yourself into the group, you are bringing your talents and your abilities into this pool that mixes together, and the result surprises absolutely everyone.
Totally.
Yeah. Counselors, do you got one more question out there?
Yeah, so this is actually the question I think that everybody's been wondering. Jaleesa and Jenny asked, so how can they get involved in the show? And on top of that, what special training do crew members or performers need to have?
Well, for performers, that's the only arena that I can speak of. It's the audition. There's a drumming audition and an acting audition, and it helps to have that experience. But again, there are no skills that are required. The only skill that is required is that you're kind of open to your inner child and your sense of play. It's like I said earlier, and if you're open to that kind of energy, it's super helpful. And listening is also super key. But as far as these types of backgrounds,
being a community member was a big one.
Communicator?
Yeah, a community member.
Oh, a community member. Totally.
When I went for my interview a long time ago, it was a room full of people, and we talked for hours, and I spent the whole day there, and it was really, really intense, and it really didn't have to do so much with skill set as much as how you can work with everybody and understand where everybody else is coming from and contribute. Yeah.
Yeah, and musician-wise, you have to be proficient at your instrument, of course, too. But all that other stuff these guys said is totally just as important.
As far as like, yeah.
I was just say get involved with the business. Go to high school. It's a great thing. Get in the drama department, the community theaters, if you have any in your area. Get involved with those and just start learning how it's done. You'll make connections. The entertainment world's really pretty small, so you'll meet somebody that'll know somebody, and you'll find your way for sure.
Network.
Yeah. Make stuff.
Yeah.
Make a whole bunch of stuff, and then you can say I've made this and this and this and this, and then you've got a resume all of a sudden. So part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very true. And the campers that we have, they are just some of the most amazing makers that I think that I've ever met. They're so impressive and so willing to get involved and collaborate. So campers, if you want to get involved, work on that making skills. Go to the hardware store, make your own trombone and make your own fun things and play with them, and then post videos of them on the community page so that I can enjoy them.
Yeah, pretty much a hardware store is the new toy store now.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
The hardware store has always been my toy store. And you know what? Thank you everyone for just being so amazing today. This has been such an eye-opening experience for especially for me, just being able to see what goes behind the scenes and how many people it takes. And I already had a crazy huge appreciation for now, but now I know why I have such a huge appreciation for the show, because it's so beautiful and fun and playful. And so thank you so much for sharing that with us and with the campers watching today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's awesome.
It's been awesome. And Sam, what do we have coming up later?
Coming up later, we have instructions on building the weekend project powered by Radio Shack, the Raspberry Pirate Radio. It's an awesome device.
Oh,
no!
Oh! Oh, they're touching me!
One extra.
How do you get anything done around there?
Yeah,
get out of here!
They flew in. They've been let out again.
They're unpredictable.
It seems like they're absolutely unpredictable. And speaking of unpredictable,
do they eat people food?
What?
They eat people food.
They don't eat anything. They're just here. They live in the shadows in this theater, and they just at will. They weren't even
feed on energy.
Yeah, I believe they feed off of the crowd energy and possibly photosynthesis.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no Twinkies. They do. Yeah, we shovel Twinkies into this small room that we have in the corner, and they're gone the next day. We don't know where they go. Yeah.
Oh.
Where are they?
Oh man.
I want to go play.
Yeah. That feels like us, though.
Yeah, send them over here. We've got a bunch of stuff. We could get Twinkies.
Yeah,
we could find some.
We can definitely accommodate that. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Coming up Monday, we're going to kick off Make Believe Week, and we're going to see the model makers at Aardman Animation. And oh man, I'm really excited about that.
It's going to be great. I'm so excited. And please stay tuned for the Raspberry Pirate Radio video. This is a really, really fun weekend project video. You may see some faces that you recognize in it. And campers, if you were inspired by anything you saw by our fantastic guests today, remember, do try this at home. Goodbye, campers.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Sam Freeman with Make. Have you ever thought about becoming a pirate? No, not the Yar matey type of pirate, but the builder of a pirate radio station. In today's weekend project, we're going to turn a Raspberry Pi into a powerful FM transmitter with enough range to cover your home, DIY drive-in movie, high school football stadium, or bumpin' pirate bike parade. The Pirate Radio is based on Pi FM by Oliver Meadows and Oscar Weigel, which was revised by Ryan Grassel. Mix engineering intern Winter Woods contributed to the project with the Pirate Radio Python script, which enables playback without using the command line and will handle just about any music file format automatically. This is a great example of the collaborative power of the open source community. Okay, let's get started. You'll need the following parts, which can be picked up at your local Radio Shack, and these basic tools. You only need an hour or so to complete this build, and it's a great first project for learning about the Raspberry Pi. One last thing before we start. The pirate radio is capable of transmitting between 1 and 250 megahertz, which may interfere with government bands. Please stay within the FM band, and always choose a frequency that's not in use, to avoid interference with licensed broadcasters. Please check your local laws before transmitting. We'll start by building the antenna. All you need for a basic antenna is a length of wire. We used a length of 12-gauge solid wire, and it works just fine. Start by cutting off the end of a female jumper wire. Next, solder it to one end of your antenna wire and insulate the connection with some heat shrink tubing. You can add a bit of hot glue around the joint for additional support. All that's left to do is plug it into pin 4 of your Raspberry Pi. Now it's time to upload the software to the SD card. You can download the MakeLab's disk image from the project page. Our image has been optimized, enables more playback options, and it takes the work out of partitioning the card into system and data partitions. Keep in mind you can't just drag the files to your SD card. It must be flashed to work. If you're not familiar with this process, don't worry, it's easy. Just head over to the project page for a link to a tutorial. The last step is to add your music to the SD card. Simply add your artist or album folders to the root of the pirate radio partition on the SD card. Your music files can be nested within these folders, so there's no need to dump all your files into one mess on the root directory. And with Make's improvements to the code, you can now use almost any music format you've got. MP3, FLAC, WAV, M4A, AAC, or WMA, and the code will handle them automatically. Once your SD card is ready, you can set the broadcast frequency in the Pirate Radio config file. Open up the file in a text editor, and you should see something like this. Keep in mind that FM frequencies typically range from 87.5 MHz to 108 MHz. You should pick a frequency that isn't being used in your area for best results. You can also configure a few other settings, like shuffle and repeat. When you're done configuring the settings, save the file and get ready to start broadcasting. Now all that's left to do is plug in your Raspberry Pi, tune your FM radio to your frequency, and enjoy the broadcast. Keep in mind that it'll take about 15 seconds to warm up. Once it does, you should hear your music loud and clear. The pirate radio is a clever hack of the clock signals that are generated for the GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi. If you'd like to learn more about how it works, head on over to the project page for all the technical details. It's a great place to share projects, ask questions, and most importantly, learn how to make your Pi radio portable.